Hi guys, my name is Spencer. Welcome to Sphinx Reads, and today I will be reviewing Calamity by Brandon Sanderson. Calamity is the first book in the Reckoner's trilogy, so if you have not read the two previous books, Steelheart and Firefight, I have reviews for both of those. I'll have them linked in the description below as well as on the corner of this video. So this will be a spoiler-free review for Calamity, but not necessarily spoiler-free for Steelheart and Firefight. I'll try to avoid spoilers, but no promises there. So Calamity kicks off a very short time after the events of the second book, Firefight. And it essentially begins with David and the Reckoners trying to break into the Nighthawk Foundation back in Chicago. This is the place where Steelheart bought his weapons from for his entire army. And basically the main goal for the entire duration of this book is to either kill Prof or save him from his darkness because he has kind of fully embraced his epic powers. And so basically that's the entire mission of the Reckoners all throughout this book. I'm gonna go straight into like my overall feelings just because there's not really a lot to say with the events from this book. So the first thing I want to note is that this book has a really strong start. In fact, at the beginning, I thought that it was a lot better than the previous book. However, from there, everything just kind of went downhill for me at least. There's just a lot of planning involved all throughout this story. I think probably 80% of this book was just the Reckoners planning out their next move or like what their plan was for either killing Prof or helping him like get rid of the darkness. And so I didn't really enjoy that a lot, if at all. Like the first half of the book was really interesting, but I never really had any strong feelings. Like I could have cared less if I actually finished this book or not. I was trying to think of what could be a reason for someone to actually enjoy this book, and really the only thing that I could come up with was if you're like your stories that involve a lot of planning and just like really laying the groundwork for the climax, then you might like this book. I personally did not like it at all. One of my biggest hiccups with this book was not only was this really dragging, but there were a lot of reveals and plot twists, just like really similar to what happened in the previous book, where new things about epics or about Megan's abilities or like powers are being introduced that just pretty much for me just come out of nowhere. And I just felt like, you know what, Brandon Sanderson, you're just making up stuff now. I mean, granted, this is a fictional book, but I'd like to have a little more structure or a little more limitation on like the magic system, if you will. So a lot of things were being introduced left and right, like, but this aspect of this power hasn't been explored yet, or this detail about epics hasn't been explored yet, but we're going to introduce these all in one book, the final book anyway. Like, it was so ridiculous, at least for me. It was ridiculous to the point where nothing makes sense anymore. Like, I could be predicting something, but I'm like, but that might not happen because such and such plot point might be introduced. There were a few moments in this book that were really strong, like there were some emotional moments even, but overall they just weren't worth it. Like the whole dragging feel of this book just didn't make any of those moments worth it at all. And then we get to the end of this book and oh my goodness. Like, I love action-packed. I love the entire ending of Steelheart. I thought that was really good. There were a lot of things that were going on, just like boom, 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 you know? With each event that was part of the entire climax, like conflict resolution part of the story, they're just like new things that like, again, are being introduced like, haha, I didn't think that this could happen. And there were things that some of the characters did that were just really out of character. I'm like, Abraham would never do that, or Cody would never do that. And just the series of plot twists that happened at the end were just like, I was like, I don't believe that this actually can happen, like in terms of like the plot. Even the last few chapters, there were like some like reveals that like pretty much come out of nowhere. Can't really specify any of this without spoiling it. There's a detail in the epilogue that I'm like, now you're just making stuff up. Like, this is ridiculous how much like change or like additional details that Brandon Sanderson was just adding to this story. Like, too many layers of the complexity of the epics and Calamity. It was just ridiculous. I did go on Goodreads after I read this book, and apparently my opinions are very unpopular. People thought that the ending was explosive. It was like, wow, it was so impactful. But for me, I was just like, this doesn't make sense. Everything is ridiculous, and this explosive ending that you call is more of a calamity. It was more of a calamity, a total disaster for me. To the point where I feel like it actually ruined my entire experience with this trilogy. Granted, I already kind of disliked this trilogy beginning from Firefight. So I guess I'll stand by my thoughts on Steelheart, that I think Steelheart can be read, probably should be read as a standalone. This is definitely not Brandon Sanderson's best work. This is actually kind of a bummer because I actually finished reading this after I finished reading Elantris, which even though I liked Elantris, it wasn't necessarily my favorite, and then it was followed up by this book. I'm slowly kind of starting to lose interest in Brandon Sanderson, but I haven't really read like what are considered to be his best works like Mistborn and Stormlight and Skyward. But this book, this trilogy, was kind of a disappointment for me. I'm actually thinking that Calamity will make it to my most disappointing reads of this year. But anyway, I would love to hear your thoughts. Even if you love this book, please tell me why I should love this book. If you feel strongly about that, let me know in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and please forget to subscribe so that you can do it later, and have a great day.